I came across this really interesting post on my LinkedIn from Andrew Chen. He basically runs the A16 speed run of Andreessen Horowitz fame, A16Z. And I think it's really relevant in terms of how we pitch investors, especially if you're trying to get funding from a firm like A16Z. It starts off by saying, here's a fun and frequent conversation that he's been having with other founders at the A16Z speed run program for the next 12 weeks. Clarity of a startup story means clarity in their strategy. So there needs to be clarity, important word, of the story, which means the strategy for the investor is going to be clear. He says the story is the strategy. On the other hand, a confusing, rambling story means that your approach is likely complex, incoherent, and unattractive. That's a key word, unattractive for investors. If you've ever had someone pitch you a product idea and then needed to ask question after question to understand what they're doing, you know what I mean. How many times have you heard me do pitch deck reviews on this channel and I say it doesn't make sense? I don't understand what this means. And I'm a pretty smart guy, and you're trying to pitch other investors who are also really smart, but if they're like, I don't know what your startup does or what you're trying to say, then how much of a chance do you actually have in raising money? Let alone investors are going to think to themselves, how much clarity will you have when pitching customers? Are you actually going to make any money with this whatsoever? The problem is a lot of you founders are in your own mind. It's clear in your own mind. You're the smartest person in there. So when you're thinking all those things, those 360 degrees of separate thoughts all come together, you've been thinking about it for such a long time, it all makes sense. Your master plan is crystal clear, and you could be the best founder in the world, building a baby unicorn, sitting on a rocket ship, ready to go parabolic and to the moon, and the investor's not going to understand, and therefore it's unattractive to them investing in you. This is a skill. It's why my YouTube channel exists, because I want to teach you that skill. It takes tremendous time and effort to pare back your startup's core ideas into a short series of truths with a strong local connection in between them. I have founders tell me all the time, Ed, how much longer do I need to work on your pitch deck? And my answer is yes. It's forever. It's pretty much nonstop because you're constantly going to be refining it. It's not easy and you have to put in the work. But as they say, how you do anything is how you will do everything. If you will spend the time and take care of your pitch deck, make sure it's right in line with what the investors want to see, then the investor is going to catch the signal that you care about the rest of your startup. If you take time to learn the skill and condense and hone down your pitch deck with conciseness and clarity, which I know is easier said than done, but Einstein's been quoted that if you can't simplify something down, you don't understand it enough. And the genius is in the ability to simplify it, because the investor knows that you'll do the same thing with customers. Your pitch deck is the training ground for being successful through the rest of your startup days. It teaches you to deal with rejection, to communicate ideas, to have flair, to add your personality. When is that appropriate? To start with why, as I talk about in some of my other videos. In many ways, your pitch deck is your first MVP, especially if you follow my advice of doing an idea validation pitch deck even before you build your product and you start talking to investors from day one. I've got videos about that too. The process of pairing an idea requires hardcore prioritization. Hardcore about it. We need to go hardcore into this, helping you with your pitch deck. Knowing what parts of the idea are core and must be done the right way, and what parts are irrelevant or can be done in the future. A clear narrative forces clarity in strategic trade-offs. The economist Thomas Sowell says that there are no such thing as solutions. There are only trade-offs. It's the same thing with pitch decks. There are strategic trade-offs where you have to figure out what the money is for right now, what you can do, and what you plan to do in the future, what is down the road for you. But so many founders get caught up in this major vision and they think, oh, the investor is going to invest in my vision. The investor is interested in funding execution, and that means you know how to prioritize, and that comes through in your pitch deck. Don't take just my word for it. This comes from A16Z. It takes no skill to have massive complexity. Really hitting the nail on the head here. We can all brainstorm a ton of ideas and throw all the exciting trendy technologies into our idea and make it go for it. But these messy stories reflect strategic indecision and avoidance. And the resulting unclear strategy will repel potential customers, investors, employees, and partners. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's what I've been saying like a broken record through this whole video and through my whole channel. They don't know who you are or what you're really doing because you don't either. Oh, man, how am I supposed to know what you're doing, what you're all about, if you don't know what you're doing either? Here's a brutal truth, some reality for you. An investor is not going to fix your startup. An investor is not going to come rescue you if you don't know all these things in advance. Investors want to pour gasoline on a raging fire. If you don't have a raging fire, start with a spark. You're the spark, and light a small flame so the investor knows that you're capable of getting things going. I had a founder complain to me the other day, you don't want to be this type of founder. When I started asking questions after I looked at their pitch deck, they said to me, well, I don't have the answers to these questions. And why are you asking me? I just want a pitch deck to go get investors. And I was incredulous. I had to step back and say to myself, do you really know how this works? An investor is going to see through this a mile away. You think you're just going to come up with these answers on the fly. You want to make sure that everything's battle tested in your pitch deck. They want a thoughtful founder who's thought through the idea maze. This is another thing that comes from A16Z, where they put you in the middle of the maze and they ask you a whole bunch of questions and whether or not you can navigate the treacherous passages. They say, what about this? And what about that? And have you thought about this? How many paths can you take there? And if you can't answer those questions, work your way through the idea maze that they put you in, they are not going to invest in you. And that's why it's so easy to AI wash, put all this buzzy hype in there. I see this with crypto founders all the time. We're going to tokenize this because it's going to change the world. And what they're looking at is the latest technology and some success stories of how other founders raised a ton of money, how this crypto went alpha all the way to monetizing like crazy. And they think, I'm going to use that technology, and it doesn't make any sense. They don't know what they're doing, and how do they expect an investor to know what they're doing, let alone have the confidence to give you their hard-earned money when there are so many other founders that say, hey, put your money in here. I've got the traction. I've got the background, the domain expertise. I've done VC before. If you want to compete, you must be totally crystal clear on your idea and strategy on how you're going to put that money to work, and then investors will be interested in funding you. The best stories are a form of lossy compression. I completely admit I don't have the vocabulary. I don't know what lossy means. Where they leave out 90% of the operational detail. Most pitch decks can be cut down by 90%, everyone, but still hit the emotional and strategic truth. Truth is all what we're talking about. They ring true as soon as the words leave your mouth. And they ring true as soon as we read them on the pitch deck. And not because they're obvious statements. After all, we get tired of hearing the same things. Investors hear the same things all the time. They get the same pitches over and over again, dozens per week. But rather because they make observations on the reality of the world, your observations, that's your insight, in a new way that cuts through the noise. You have to cut through the noise with the investor. That's how sharpening the tip of your arrow, which is basically your pitch deck. The best narratives tap into feelings, not logic. And clarity is going to get it all out of the way. You might think that you're logical, but that's going to give an investor an opportunity to emotionally invest in your story. The good news is that you can often figure this all out as you go. It's not about perfection, it's about direction. Founders and product builders are often guided by the intuition of what they want to see in the world. Intuition, very important, might guide you towards a solid product, even if the initial story is a bit messy. And as you understand your customers' real-world use cases, get in front of your customers, talk to them all the time, plus how your own customers describe the product, it can get easier to compress down all your ideas, observation, mistakes into a simpler expression of the idea. In other words, your pitch deck is going to get that much better as you start to compress. A lot to unpack there, but bottom line, if you're not sure about how to pitch to investors, get in front of customers. I ask this to founders all the time. When their pitch decks are very confusing and they've already got customers, I say to them, what did those customers, those users come to you with as far as their problem? How did they try to solve it in the past? And why didn't they like it? And why is yours working for them? We can build a pitch deck off of that. You can't get there if you don't have customers to begin with. And that's why I get frustrated with founders who are not willing to go and set up an MVP or at least do a proper customer discovery interview so they know how to pitch. Instead, they get an idea in their head, they're stuck in that echo chamber, all their confirmation bias, and they go right to pitch deck and then waste a whole bunch of time, and they get upset and angry when an investor won't pay them any attention. You've heard from A16Z, the managing partner of Speedrun himself, say, if you don't know yourself, there's no clarity, you'll be unattractive to investors, especially customers and other future partners. But let me encourage you, as he acknowledges, this is a skill that you can learn, and you can do this while you're working with your customers, while you are building. Build in public, get that feedback. Come join us at startups.com, a little plug there, and get feedback from other founders and advisors like me. Do what it takes and join us, because that's how you're going to hone the skills. No founder is born with these skills to cut down their pitch deck and know how to pitch investors. And no course, no MBA course is going to teach you like having the personal experience getting in front of that nerve-wracking interview. One of the best and arguably the worst experiences I've ever had pitching investors is my Y Combinator interview. This was when they did it live and in person. They flew you down, and me and my co-founder there, and it was the most grueling 20 minutes of my life, the most grueling investment meeting. And I've done hundreds of these. That was probably the most intense. But they've got it down to a science, and I have unpacked that, and I've figured out how to work with the investor's perspective. Check out my other video on the golden triangle. There's your perception and the investor's perspective, and then there's reality, and this is going to help you achieve what is written in this LinkedIn post. Go check out Andrew Chen on LinkedIn. Go read what he writes about, and go read from other partners and other investors are putting out lots of great stuff on LinkedIn that gives you an idea of what they're thinking when they're looking at your pitch decks. Watch the other video that I put on the screen to continue your learning. Send me your feedback. Let me know what you're thinking. And if you need a review on your pitch deck, let me know. Leave a comment and I'll give you the process, and let's do this together. Thanks for hanging out with me in this video. I'll see you in the next one.